Alright, today we're learning something very critical to your Linux experience, and this was something that took me a long time to learn, so hopefully we can speed up your experience and get Linux to be a little bit more enjoyable sooner. So, let's say you have been around Linux at least a little bit, and you've discovered the awesomeness of a tiling window manager. Not all of you have been around Linux that long, so what is a tiling window manager? Well, so I have a terminal open here, right? I can do whatever I want, echo, hi, whoa, magical. If I open another window, instead of opening on the top, which would be going like this, right? Like this is how if we were on Windows or Mac or something, it would be. It would float, and then I'm like, oh, what's the text over here? Then, oh, I gotta get back. It's just a big mess. Tiling, the size is automatically changed to maximize your space on the screen. We could even like hide the bar, and now it's like really maximizing our space. Then if we keep opening, it keeps just shrinking. And then we could move any of these to be the main one. We can also switch how they're sorted, right? Like there's Fibonacci sequence off into the side. I find this one the most useful. So anyways, that's a tiling window manager. Very useful, right? So I'm going to throw a theoretical at you, and this is not that theoretical because it happens a lot. Let's say we're running a command that takes a while, right? So I'm running like paru. This is an Arch-based system, so this will update it. And it starts to update, which Linux is based, and update might actually remove size, not like Windows, and it's like, hey, 50 gigabytes? No, that's no longer yours. So anyways, I could start running this, and it's going to take a while, because I have a slow internet connection, and that's about a gigabyte down. And let's say while this is happening, I want to do literally anything else. Well, I can't technically write in this shell, because this shell is updating the system. But I can just open up another window, and while that's busy updating, I can do my important Docker PS, work on Docker maybe. Or I could, Vim, and I could start writing something nice, I could even do it in like Markdown, start a list, whatever. That's not the point. But that's all nice. But that's on a local machine where we have a window manager. We're running the X server. Or you could be doing something like Sway, and you'd be running Wayland, still a tiling window manager. Not the point of this. But that's reliant on your actual window manager. What if we want to tile on another computer? That's where Tmux comes in. So, to show you, we can SSH into a server. This would be my white server because it is running, the case it's in is white. My other server is black, so diversity or something, I don't know. So, here we have the SSH connection into white. And let's say we run like apt update. It'd be sudo, but I don't want to enter my password right now. Apt update, it's taking along. We can pretend this is doing, whatever heavy operation. That's just at least time consuming. Heavy on the clock, not necessarily CPU. And so, it's chugging along doing an update, and we're like, oh, while that's happening, I also want to, use Ollama to pull some AI models. Or I want to use Docker, I need to pull some Docker images. I want to just continue writing code. I want to do literally anything else. Are you going to, A, SSH into the machine again, and now you have two connections, or B, there's a much better option that actually gets us more benefits than just being tiling. So what we're going to do first is run Tmux. First, we'll just go through the tiling nature of it, some keybinds, and I'll explain another reason why you should be using Tmux even if you don't need multiple shells. So, here it's great. I'm going to just put some text here so we can tell the difference between shells. So, when we ran the command initially, we saw that color started working, which is magical, and we also got this bar down at the bottom. I can move this out of the way. Just shows the date down here. Not super important, and like the host name. But let's say, this is running and it's taking forever, right? We want to start doing something else. We want to get back to, writing a story. Let's pretend we're writing a story. What we could do is you have keybinds that are more chords. So instead of like a normal keybind, let's say Alt F4, right? You hold down the Alt key and you press the F4 key. They have to be pressed at the same time. That's not how this works. Well, so what we're going to do with Tmux open is we're going to press Control B, and you can take your hands off. But then we're going to press the parenthesis or percent sign. So you see, they don't all have to be pressed at the same time. You start a sequence with Control B, then you hit your keybind, and that will split it vertically. We could also go Control B and a quotation mark, a double quote, and it will split it vertically. So now we have multiple shells, and we can begin doing all sorts of stuff. So while we're updating over on the side over here, we can, be going, ooh, Docker, and this one actually has stuff running. So we could, maybe manage our Docker containers on this system. We could, open up Vim down here and start writing story, And that's all great, but it's kind of getting crowded, especially with my font turned up this big. Maybe you're recording a video and you need large font like this, or maybe you just don't want to strain your eyes, or you have a small monitor. Whatever, use large font if you want to. But it's getting really crowded. What if we open up another one and we're like, oh, how's the system running? We try and run htop. That's just unrealistic. It's not going to happen. So what we need to do is we need a whole new window. Control B, start your sequence, press C. Now we have a beautiful new window. And well, what happened to everyone else? You see how it's 0, 1 down here? And the star means we're in this one. So this window. So we're in window 1. Everything else was back in window 0, 0 indexed. So hit Control B and then hit 0, and it'll bring us back. Everything is still running. Control B 1, now we're here. This is all magical. And now for the really awesome part of why you should be using this. Let's say you're like me and you live somewhere with bad internet, right? And you're working on a server, like I have my server, my websites are on over in Chicago. I think that's where it is. It might not be. Irregardless. Working on my servers in Chicago, I start an update on them, and then my connection drops. Well, what happens to that update? It just gets terminated in the middle. What if it's building like the boot image? That wouldn't be a great situation. I don't think it would break. That hasn't happened to me because I don't do dumb stuff like updating over just like the raw SSH connection, or even updating packages. Sometimes my SSH connection will time out while I'm updating packages on the remote server, and then it's like, well, what happens? Now I just have to like restart it and lose all this time. No bueno. So what we can do instead, and to show you this, is if we start the command Control B and then hit D, detached from session 0. Now if we go Tmux ls, this session's happening, and it's like, it was created. What do you think we can do with that? Tmux, and then we're going to a flag, so we're going to attach to the terminal, and we're going to attach to terminal 0. It's still running. So let me go ahead and detach with Control B, D again. Now I can exit out of this machine. I can totally close out that window. All right, it's gone. So any progress we were working on, gone. Let's say you're working on a large file and you are one of those persons who don't save. I'm occasionally that. I try and save as often as I can. We can SSH back into white, and assuming the remote host hasn't restarted, whoopsies, it's still there. Or AT0, and everything's still here. It's the most glorious thing. Please start using Tmux. It's the best thing since sliced bread. It saves your sessions. It saves you a lot of time. It allows you to do multiple things at the same time, and it's just all around a better experience than Linux. I've actually thought about like ditching the tiling window manager. Not seriously, because I use it. I like the tiling nature for like browsers and stuff. But from the terminal perspective, you're chilling if you got Tmux. Full screen and terminal, open up Tmux. So that's actually a point if you're on Windows subsystem for Linux and you miss the tiling nature, just full screen your terminal, open up Tmux, boom, you're tiling again. And also you have like multiple desktops if we're gonna go with the analogy of it being a window manager. But it's the best thing ever. Use Tmux. Oh, and one more thing. If you don't remember these keybinds, the only keybind you need to remember, which by the way you can configure all these, which I wouldn't recommend doing. I'd recommend learning the default keybinds, because then when you SSH into servers, they're all going to be obviously using the default keybinds, and so it's better to just learn the default keybinds. Anyways, Control B, question mark, shows you everything. So now that you have all the keybinds available to you, have fun.